Hey there, and welcome back to our Elden Ring lore playthrough, where we're just kind of taking our time reading item descriptions and, experiencing the story kind of like it's our first time, really only knowing what our character knows and what we've actually done so far. Now, we're kind of working around that perimeter of Mount Gelmir, right? And I did just clear out Seathwater Cave. It was a dungeon we saw on the way around, and it was sealed up by an imp statue. I was going to show it to you guys, but I mean, honestly, there was not really anything interesting to see. It was sealed by Lanedale soldiers, just based off of there being a soldier on the exterior and a couple on the inside. But once you get past them, it just goes down into a poison section where you fight a bunch of mushroom cultists, and we know that they're interested in the rot just because of where they're found and, the spells that they use. But then you got the armor set from them. So mushrooms found growing all over the body. The overgrown mushrooms have colonized the head. To those enraptured by the scarlet rot, they are holy vestments that root one to the earth. So, I mean, yeah, they're enraptured by the scarlet rot. They let the mushrooms and stuff overtake their body and colonize them. So, it's pretty straightforward. The whole dungeon culminates with a boss fight against two kindred of rot, which is no big deal for us because they're just, chump trash enemies for us right now, right? But it did give us the Kindred of Rot's Exaltation, depicting Exaltation of Pests. It raises attack power when poisoning or rot occurs. Rot for the Scarlet Goddess, O Scarlet Blossoms, flourish in distant lands and return to us, the unwanted children. Because these Kindred of Rots, these pests, are abandoned by the Goddess of Rot. It says so in their ashes, right? They are abandoned, unwanted, unloved, right? And so they want them to blossom, to flourish in distant, and then return to them. This rot for the Scarlet Goddess. But it's talking about flourishing in distant lands, which makes me think that Millennia is somewhere far away, right? She's not in Caelid, right? We didn't find her anywhere in there. We found Radon, but then that was it. So she's somewhere else. But at any rate, we are here now in the Gelmir hero's grave. Which hero is it from Gelmir? Don't know. However, the beast eye did quiver when we came down in here. So, I imagine we'll find some skeletons, get ourselves some death root. There's also going to be a chariot, because each of these Gelmir ones, each of the hero graves, that's what they've had. They've had the various chariots. Yep, and there's the skeletons. See those statues up there? So that's the same statue you'll see in some of the mines. There's been a couple that have like sort of altar looking sections, and it has like a statue of somebody like that on there. And I've seen some of the miners kind of standing by them. Sometimes there was the vulgar militiaman as well. But there's going to be a nice little bit of working around the lava here. Do you think there was lava in here when they built the place? I mean, the overall architecture is the same as the others, right? There's just lava in here. And there is a drop down we could go to. We've seen that. That's a familiar trend we've seen with quite a few of these, hero grave things. Is there's like a section that has a drop down we can go to. Now that jump looked extra sketchy. I know I could do it with the rafters there, but I didn't care to risk it for right now. But look how this road ends with lava. So we've got to jump off to the left where we find some grave glovewort that, kind of guides us on that path as far as like, hey, look, an item, come over here. Yeah, I knew you were going to jump out at me. But there's a whole bunch of nobles in here, which is different. You don't ever see like little nobly, just kind of comedy looking dudes. And look, there's some pages. I would say they were the pages that were following these nobles, right? But I wonder what they were doing in here, right? Are they looking for a hero's burial? Are they just looking to return to the roots? Like what's the purpose, Oh, bummer for you, dude. Eventually come out. There's a chariot. It doesn't have a rider, which is different, right? All the other ones have had, statuettes of like I'm assuming an Erdtree Sentinel, right? Or Tree Sentinel. This one does not have that. Now we can see there's another another little section of walkway with a gap that we can probably, well, maybe not. Oh, that was close. I didn't see anything on that side. What about this side? Not seeing anything. So there may not be anything for us to get on, right? Oh, there is. It's just further down. Here we go. Gotta run it quick, though. Drop, 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 drop. Ooh, no! Oh, that's unfortunate. All right, round 2. Hey, we did it right that time. Okay. Smoldering butterfly. Look what it is. A bloodhound knight. We only see a few of those around, right? Fortunately, he's, yeah, just no match. They're pretty large, pretty savage in how they fight, right? They got a claw in one hand, big sword in the other, right? Yeah, poisoned out. Emblem on the back, right? And we get their full set of armor from them. Bloodhound Knight armor. And then the Gelmir Knight armor. Awesome dungeon because you get 2 very nice sets of armor. So the Bloodhound Knight helm. It's a metal helm with a pointed beak worn by the Bloodhound Knights. It's weird that it has a pointed beak. I mean, I guess it's just an armor design choice, right? Maybe it is supposed to represent like the snout. But the Bloodhound Knights are trained as hunters and known to be unshakable trackers. Without the use of language, each knight chooses his own master. Once the decision has been made, the knight stays loyal for life. Now, what's interesting about that, way back in the beginning of the game, we help out Blythe, because Blythe is looking for this guy named Darrell, and he's like, he needs to have a true punishment, right? And he was trapped in the Hound's jail. So he's supposed to be loyal to somebody, and I imagine, like, why would Blythe seek him out? My thought is he was following Ronnie, but why Blythe would seek him out? Because he betrayed her in some way? Like, something must have happened. So, like, why was he seeking out that Bloodhound Knight, you know? Also, Renala summons a Bloodhound Knight, like in the fight with, you know, the second phase of her, when she's like summons guys, she summons a Bloodhound Knight. The cool thing was the greaves too. If you look at them, look how, you know, the thigh has the armor, but then you go down to the shins, the armor is actually on the back of their calf. It's on their calves. So it's got a reversed kind of position there. But now we go to the Gelmir Knight, worn by the knights once loyal to Praetor Rykard. Its crest of red feathers symbolizes Rykard's pedigree as Lord Radagon's son, right? So you can kind of see the red. Radagon had red hair. It all ties together. But once loyal to Praetor Rykard. When we talked to that ghost, right? And even like one of the other guys, like it seemed like they were interested in what Rykard was trying to do. They're like, yeah, we get the message. We understand. We're behind you. But once his like ambition fell to gluttony, that's when the knights seem to have problems, right? Once loyal. So then we go to his armor piece. Now look at the crest on the chest piece. It bears an emblem that none wear any longer, standing as it does for a lord that fell from lofty ambition into gluttonous depravity. As the lord lost his dignity, so too did these knights lose their master. So I mean, the emblem on it really looks just kind of completely kind of faded and destroyed, and it looks like it should be some kind of like a fancy sword, right? Very fancy sword. Oh yeah, and even on the back you can maybe see the same type of thing, or maybe not. I don't know. It's a very cool armor. I do really like it because it's got that just nice black. And if you want, there's a cool combination you can do with the armors. Use the if you alter it, take off the cape, and then you wear the confessor hood, it'll actually cloak over the top so you don't get that big like chest guard piece, and then you'd have like the confessor hood stuff. It's pretty cool. But let's go on up. Now look at this spot right here. This is the first hole we originally saw when we could have like jumped on down, right? And then look how we land right above this thing. Oh, I completely missed. That is unfortunate. But there's somebody in here along with a flower. Hi, one of those things. One of those grave bug warden things. No way. No way that dropped. Because, like, I've spent many a time trying to get that thing to drop. So what does it say? A curved sword with a blade at both ends wielded by cemetery shades, the insect-ridden gravekeepers. The blade is thin and sharp, and strong attacks unleash a far-reaching slash. It should be really cool. It's not as exciting as it should be, right? Because because like when you do the charge strong attack, you can see it like extends out. Yeah, even without charging it, it's just, I don't know, not as amazing as it should be, I think. But what's it worn by? Insect-ridden gravekeepers, those big burly dudes, and actually the same dudes that we see outside the Colosseum in the capital of Lanedale, which we have their stuff to kind of tell us about them. A duelist helm, a bronze helm decorated with innumerable snakes, worn by gladiators who were driven from the Colosseum. The wearer becomes a slightly easier target for foes. The snake is viewed as a traitor to the Erd Tree, and the audience delighted in seeing these bronze effigies beaten and battered. So, we're dealing with Mount Gelmir, which has some old religion dealing with snakes, right? And then you got these gladiator dudes, worn by gladiators who were driven from the Colosseum. And so they would wear these things, and the crowd would just be like, yeah, get rid of the snakes and the snakes. But how did they also end up as, like, grave wardens, too, right? So maybe that's a job that they picked up after they were taken from the Colosseum. Actually, so the chest piece I have, I think I need to re-alter it back, because I have this one right now, and it's altered, so it doesn't have a big cloak. And it tells us the same thing. I think if it has a cloak, it might tell us something a little different. However, I think I have the... Oh, maybe not. I thought I had their weapon. But one of the weapons they can drop is the Great Axe, a big, colossal Great Axe. And it was awarded to champions of the arena, right? To victors, winners, things like that. So why would they get why would they get some big, giant axe? Why is that the prize? Well, think about who really was interested in the Colosseums, like under whose rule did they exist, right? It was under Godfrey. And what is Godfrey known for? What is his whole symbol? It's the axe. And so the victors, the champions, would get axes. And we made it that time. Nice, easy way to get all the way across the lava. And we made it to the final chamber. So now the question is, who is the boss going to be, right? What do we normally find in these hero graves? A lot of times it's been the tree spirits, right? Ulcerated tree spirits, putrid ones, etc. So it could stand to reason that that's what we're going to see in this one as well. Except it's not. Red Wolf of the Champion. So, that's like Radagon's Red Wolf, right? And again, it's doing the Carrion Knight sorceries. And this one has a red sword, which, we fought a few of these things, right? We fought the one inside the academy, and it had a red sword. We fought one in the graveyard outside the Carrion Manor. It did not. Fought one underground. Did not have a sword. But then we find one here, and it has a sword. So maybe when they very specifically are associated with some champion, or Radagon, maybe, that's when they have this red blade. And there's our death root. And we also got an Ash of War. Bloodhound Knight Flow. Spirit of a Bloodhound Knight they called the Rabid Stray. Will attack without pause immediately after being summoned. Flo vowed that there was only one lord he would serve, a true king, and so the Rabid Stray never found a master. Yeah. It would make sense. Eventually, you keep saying you're gonna serve only this one person, only this true worthy one, and then they never show up, so you end up serving nobody. So who is the grave for here? I know, like, on some of them, right, there was kind of like a specific one, like way down here when you go into this fringe folk hero's grave. It was for one of the wings of the storm. I don't remember which of the banished knights it was, right? It was one of them though, right? It's a very specific person. So I wonder, like, was this one somehow tied to the the family line, the Radagon and Carrion family line, or is it more specifically tied to the Gelmir one? Was it a specific Gelmir knight? right? Because in another one, we get a Lanedale Knight who had earned the Erd Tree Burial. Who's to say? So one thing didn't do is check what's at the end of this pathway, right? Because we end up going the side passage because, of course, we would, right? There's a bunch of lava here. It makes us really slow. There's a giant chariot that's not slowed down at all. But what's down here at the end? So we can use some quick step to kind of help us out here. There's a hole. Okay. There's actually a straight up hole down there. Okay. And another large doorway. But in here, what do we find? A ringed finger. This thing is a weapon. It is a mace, a bludgeon made of an enormous finger sheathed in several heavy rings, thought to have been cut from an ancestor of the finger creeper. Some life yet remains in this legacy of an ancient act of blasphemy, as evidenced by the barely perceptible warmth it still exudes. Its unique skill is claw flick, causing the finger to swell, then flex to build up strength before giving enemies an almighty flick. So the finger creepers it's talking about are the large crawling finger things we see in different locations across the map, right? Trying to get a decent look at some of these jewelry things. Yellow ring on there, right? But said to have come from, what did it say, the ancestor? Cut from the ancestor of the finger creepers. So not the finger creepers we know today, but the ancestor. And it's a legacy of an ancient act of blasphemy. I mean, there is some, a fair amount of stuff with fingers. You got the finger creepers, the 2 fingers, maddening 3 fingers. All the furrow calling things are furrow calling fingers. You got bloody fingers, the other various invading items, the recusant finger, right? You've got these festering bloody fingers, a duelist furled finger, right? They're all things to do with fingers. And even Yura talks about he's learned a secret of himself, so he's sliced off the finger. And so, was there some ancient act of blasphemy involving severing fingers or something like that? Because there's even the finger severer, right? It's an online item, really. But it does have a line that says, "The maiden scorn those who abuse its use." So, maybe that's just a little, thing at people who just like sever and cut online people off all the time. Kind of a crazy weapon though. But let's give Gurranq another bit of death root.
My thanks, tarnished death. My sin should not be touched by the hand of man. I shall grant thee my claws. Feed me more.
Stone of Gurranq. So capital D, death, should not be touched by the hands of men, right? His sin. So death is his sin, right? Like how is death his sin, Interesting thing, the Stone of Gurranq is a superior incantation taught by Gurranq. It hurls a boulder before the caster. Long ago, Gurranq was a beast of such terrifying ferocity that his former name meant death of the demigods. Yeah. So if his former name, death is his sin, and his former name was death of the demigods, right? So did he have some sin involving some death of a demigod, right? Something to do with anyone in particular? And it's interesting that, he was known as the death of the demigods, but, really, though, there was no recorded deaths of the demigods until Godwyn, right? So, what was happening then? Did he have some leverage or power before then? Before some fragment of death was stolen? Was he doing things on the low? Maybe the things he killed weren't recorded? It's a little weird there. But he had a different name before it was Gurranq. We have something else we can do while we're kind of thinking about things. We got a little bit of time we can add in here. let's go talk to Sellen, right? Because we got a crazy new sorcery. And, we've been waiting for some kind of trigger. Like, she hasn't done anything in a while. And she has, like, 2 bodies. Like, there's something weird going on.
There you are, my apprentice. Shall we commence the lesson?
Show Azur's sorcery. Which, I mean, hold on. So, like, we had mentioned Azur before back when we got the spell, but I didn't really talk about his staff, which, of course, I don't have it in my inventory. And see, the coloration matches that dude's body, right? Only those who have glimpsed what lies beyond the wisdom of stone may wield it. That's all it said. Okay. But the Gravekeeper's cloak does say, right, it's a thick, bristly cloak that is the symbol of the underground Gravekeeper. Those who once fought for a living were driven from the Colosseum and becoming guardians of Erdtree burial. So let's show it to her.
There you are, my apprentice. Shall we commence the lesson?
Show Azur's sorcery.
What's this sorcery, my apprentice? Ah, then you have seen Master Azure. Master Azure was a founding Glintstone sorcerer, and my first teacher. A stern judge of men. But he must have seen something in you. You make us both proud. We can speak more later, my apprentice.
Okay. Tell me your story.
If you recall, I was exiled from the Academy of Rhea Lucaria. It was for attempting to restore the primeval current of Glintstone sorcery. The toothless pedantry peddled by the Carian royal family can rot for all I care. I want Glintstone sorceries that open our minds, unbound by terrestrial taboos, no matter what we give in return. My apprentice, I presume nothing. Teacher and student are not bound to tread the same path. But hear me out, my apprentice. I need your help to restore the primeval current of Glintstone sorcery. Perhaps this is a journey we could take together.
Let me think about it.
Forgive me, it was an outlandish idea to begin with. And I fear quite presumptuous of me as well. Don't give it another thought, my apprentice.
Right. So, because we knew she had been, exiled from the academy, and Tops had even said as much. He's like, yeah, there were some crazy rumors about her and stuff, and like none of it would be true, of course, right? Impossible. But she's kind of confirming it, and we know, I did not mean to drink that, some of the primeval current stuff, right? As we got here, it's a Graven School Talisman. It's a forbidden tradition of Glintstone sorcery. Those who cleave to its teaching, the act of collecting sorcerers to fashion them into seeds of stars, is but another path of scientific inquiry. So, like, we see these things with all these masks together, and we found them a couple times, and they spew out, like, cosmic smoke, like, stuff that is damaging to us. And so, like, is this going to create new stars? And the stars hold, like, the amber of the cosmos, like, residual life of stars in the glintstone, like, and then we talk about what the comet Azur does, Azur's comet, and it talks about like the mass is like the starry sky above us, and like a potential beginning of all the glintstones and stuff, and maybe beginnings of all things, because like what else do we see about like the stars and stuff? It's more than just glintstones. It's also the like the Elden ring, because you see it with the Elden star, or Elden stars, right, plural, most ancient, that derive from the Erdtree, and it's said that long ago the Greater Will sent a golden star bearing a beast into the lands between that would later become the Elden Ring, right? So there is these ties between like the Erdtree, because this is an Erdtree incantation, ties between the Elden Ring and stars, and even beasts maybe in a sense, because they sent a golden star bearing a beast, and the beast, or yeah, the Greater Will sent a golden star bearing a beast into the lands between, which would later become the Elden Ring. So this beast became the Elden Ring. So there's like some connection between like the stars sending down these things from outer greater wills and outer gods and stuff, and and even the crashing meteorites and stuff, and bringing about new life. So there's a lot that tie in together there. But we're gonna end it here, and the next one we'll keep doing some stuff with her and see what other answers we can get. But thank you for joining me. Always appreciate it when you guys check it out, and until the next one, take care.